Hi everybody, it's Lorraine again. I have an article to read to you. Just showed up in my mailbox. Before I get on with the article by Janet Phelan on July 15, 2023, please hit the like button, hit the notification bell so that you're aware of when I'm posting a new video, and let's get on with it. The article is called Lawsuit Claiming the U.S. is Using Citizens as Lab Rats is Dismissed. The topics: Directed Energy Weapons, Human Rights by Janet Phelan, July 15, 2023 in the Activist Post. The article is dedicated to Liza Goldsmith, artist and directed energy victim, November 16, 1970, and she passed June 1st, 2023. I have spoken with Liza, and she was an animal lover as well. A federal judge has dismissed the targeted justice lawsuit, claiming at the onset that the lawsuit filed on behalf of 18 individuals who claim they have been placed non-consensually on a government blacklist and subsequently attacked with covert weaponry is, quote-unquote, bizarre and fantastical. Federal Judge Lee Rosenthal went on in his 21-page decision. I'm going to tell you that number 21 is a Freemason number, boys and girls. 21. You'll notice that when there are large deaths, like airplanes that go down, people that go missing, the number is 21. Federal Judge Lee Rosenthal went on in his 21-page decision, not 22, not 18, in his 21-page decision in detail that the 1, individuals lack standing to sue, that 2, the court lacks jurisdiction over the individual capacity defendants, which include FBI Director Christopher Wray and others, and also points out that 3, Congress failed to provide a Bivens remedy for prior violations of the sort alleged here, despite, as the plaintiffs allege, past governmental abuses of similar character, unquote. The dismissal references the MKUltra programs and states that, quote, despite the abuses and subsequent condemnation of those programs, Congress did not create a damages cause of action for the individuals they allege harm. That's pretty serious, folks. I didn't know that. I'll repeat that sentence. Congress did not create a damages cause of action for the individuals they allegedly harmed. The Bivens case law and this congressional inaction are reason enough to conclude that the plaintiffs cannot sue the individual defendants here for damages. While the sorts of abuses detailed in the lawsuit are echoed in reports of Havana syndrome, which has reportedly caused grave injury and disability in a number of U.S. diplomats and CIA agents, the U.S. government has continued to maintain that any such claims being launched by anyone outside of these circles are false and, quote-unquote, nutty. The mainstream media has enforced this narrative, and Congress, while rushing to pass law to require medical aid for vetted victims of Havana syndrome, has continued to ignore the numerous claims that ordinary people are also now being assaulted with these weapons. Those making these claims refer to themselves as targeted individuals. Their claims often use the word, quote-unquote, torture to describe the effects of directed energy weapons, microwave weapons, and voice-to-skull technology. Interestingly, though, the U.S. Code does not admit that torture can occur inside the borders of the U.S. The relevant U.S. Code, 18 U.S. Code 2, Section 2340A, states that, A, the offense, whomever outside the United States commits or attempts to commit torture shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 20 years or both. And if death results to any person from conduct prohibited by this subsection, shall be punished by death or imprisoned for any term of years or for life. The failure of the U.S. Code to provide a remedy for domestic torture is echoed in organizations dedicated to treating and rehabilitating victims of torture. These organizations receive funding from the U.S. government, which mandates treatment only to those who are tortured outside of the U.S. Did you hear that, folks? You're allowed to be tortured inside the U.S. with no remedy. It's written, or I should say it isn't written into the law. So if you're tortured outside of the United States, you're a U.S. citizen, then that individual can be fined or imprisoned for more than 20 years or both. And if death results to any person from conduct prohibited by this subsection, shall be punished by death or imprisoned for any term of years or for life. But the failure of the U.S. Code to provide a remedy for domestic torture is echoed in organizations dedicated to treating and rehabilitating victims of torture. This bias is significantly also echoed in the fact that Congress, while holding well-publicized hearings in the 1970s concerning multiple programs launched by the CIA, which has resulted in torture of unwitting participants, did not pass laws which would give any redress to those victims. We need to be addressing this, folks. Now that Congress is looking into the weaponization of these agencies, we need to be contacting Congress to have a redress for torture within the United States passed into the code. The targeted justice lawsuit faced internal problems and was sloppily constructed as discussed in this prior article. So she has a link to the prior article. I will link this in the description section. Some of these issues were addressed in an amended version of the lawsuit filed shortly thereafter. However, these internal issues pale in comparison to a fundamental flaw in the lawsuit construction, which made an unprovable assumption that targeted individuals were on the terrorist watch list. Certainly, those being hit on a regular basis with covert weaponry, denied numerous civil rights and subjected to repeated privacy invasions, including but not limited to unauthorized sneaks and peeks, and monitoring of activities and personal communications are on some sort of list. Right, folks? They've got to be on some kind of list if you're being broken into, if law enforcement doesn't do an investigation. I've got to be on some list. When Daniel Cameron, the Attorney General, and his entire Criminal Investigations Division is ignoring my substantial amount of evidence, I've got to be on some kind of list. Right? However, and this is just an example, the lawsuit launched by the Muslim organization CAIR a few years back detailed extensive travel interruptions and substantial privacy invasions by the plaintiffs in the case, who were indeed on a terrorist database. However, none of those plaintiffs complained about being attacked with covert weaponry, including directed energy weapons and or chemical weapons. They just stated the provable facts. It's very hard to prove that we're being assaulted by these weapons when we do not have the financial means to invest in the types of devices or the medical staff to investigate the claims. Recently, a reporter named David Lindorf revealed that he too is on the terrorist watch list and detailed some of his travel experiences related to this inclusion. Nowhere did Lindorff state that he was assaulted with covert weaponry. That's right, folks. I have filed multiple incident reports. I have never, ever stated that I've been assaulted with weapons. I did, however, state a provable fact that some radio frequencies are sending loud bangs to the metal roof of my cat's nonprofit building, which are recorded. But no, I've never, ever reported that on an incident report. I've reported thefts. I've reported vandalism with provable photos. I've provided evidence, obviously, of the harassment of my neighbors, the trespassing, the gunshots, etc. These are all provable events. But no, I have never, in all of the reports filed with the Manalapan Criminal Police Department or here in rural Kentucky, I have never stated that I am being assaulted with directed energy weapons. Never. If I can't prove it to the police, I'm not going to say it. And of course, it's not my responsibility to perform the investigation. It's only my responsibility to tell them the facts of the events, like I purchased new locks. I left them right here by my laptop and they went missing. Provable. I've got the receipts. Okay, so she goes on to say, and here may lie the fatal flaw in the TJ lawsuit. The lawsuit assumes that there is an equivalence between a terrorist database and a database of targeted individuals, where there have been some intersection of methodology, particularly surveillance techniques, applied to those on the terrorist list and those on a human lab rat list. It is likely that the lists are entirely separate and involve very different protocols. As the aim of the TJ lawsuit, according to targeted justice lawyer Anna Toledo, was stopping this and targeting to make this work, the case, and putting the elements of evidence out there in order to have the list declared illegal and unconstitutional, it may be important to focus on stopping the covert weapons assaults and to put aside unproven assumptions as to what list exactly the human subjects occupy. In his decision, Judge Rosenthal dismissed all the claims except one with prejudice, meaning they cannot be refiled. The Privacy Act violations and with individual plaintiffs filed Freedom of Information requests with the FBI, DOJ, or the DHS and reported that these requests were not satisfied can be refiled. Well, that's simple, folks. You just keep applying for it and say that they haven't been filled. The attorney for targeted justice has filed a notice of appeal, and as far as the bizarre and fantastical jab, the utter inability of U.S. human testing victims to get any redress from the courts might also qualify in a current edition of Ripley's quote-unquote Believe It or Not. This is written by Janet Phelan. The book I have in front of me is Pamela Lundgren Sandvik, Adult Bullying is a Nasty Piece of Work. Yes, folks, so that is the article that Janet Phelan wrote, and I was not aware that there was no redress in Congress for torture on U.S. soil. I think we need to focus on getting a bill passed and contact Jim Jordan about this now, since he's going to be addressing the 702 FISA issue by the end of this year. When you place your phone calls, please address the issue of torture being within the U.S. borders and that there needs to be a redress when it is confirmed that an individual is being tortured in the United States. This is Lorraine Alternative Homesteading signing off for now.